You found Michigan's retirement coach, Mike Douglas.
Leftover pizza is delicious, but do not leave it out overnight. And leaving your 401k to stand on its own too long, the same could be said as far as thinking about your health overall. Leftover pizza left out, bad for your health. Leaving your 401k too long, bad for your financial health.
Best transition ever.
This is what I'm here to do. I'm here to bring everything together. I'm here for you and for anybody who has dared to venture into this podcast vortex with you and I. Certified wordsmithery. Listen, you do what you do and I'll do what I do, all right? Everybody stay in their lane. Yeah. Stay in their lane. I'm Heather Branch. That's Mike Douglas, Michigan's retirement coach, certified financial planner, here sharing information about why you should not leave your 401k to stand on its own for too long because it's bad for your financial health, as it would turn out. And a lot of people do. My company, we had a meeting with our 401k, the company that, what was interesting to me is because I checked my 401k through Fidelity, but we had a person from this other company come in and I was like, hold on, who are you? We're the Fidelity people, because apparently there's like a whole nother company that manages 401ks. So maybe you can explain that a little bit too. So for people that don't realize, if you have a 401k with Vanguard, with Fidelity.
In the 401k space, you have a custodian who actually holds the money and does the trading.
Yeah.
Then you have to have a fiduciary. It's called a 338 fiduciary. And it's the person who goes through and chooses funds and helps the individuals with their portfolio management. So we think of it, well, my account's at Fidelity, my account's at Pershing or Schwab. But in the 401k space, you need a custodian and you need an advisor, basically. And the advisor is not the advisor the way like a typical thing works, where it's like, we sit down and we go over our plans and our hopes and dreams and my family, and they come to our dining room table. They come to the quarterly meeting. They come in front of you. They give you any updates on the portfolios. If you need any help, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
And then nobody ever talks to them.
Right.
But that's who they are. So there is the Fidelity. Now, sometimes it's the same. Like Fidelity sends a Fidelity person. And that could be the case. But a lot of times it's two separate people.
Okay. FYI, in case you didn't know that, I learned that myself this week of how my 401k is set up. So something that came up in that conversation with this person who was presenting about 401k and where we are this year and options, et cetera, they were talking about this set it and forget it mindset, how a lot of people adopt it. And she was saying you shouldn't. She was like, don't do that. She was saying the right thing. This idea about leftover pizza. I want to talk about this story a little bit.
See, I feel like we glossed over the leftover pizza thing.
No, but I need to tell you this story because actually this happened to one of my husband's best friends. He is a dear friend of ours. Clint, if this podcast ever floats your way, know that I'm talking about you, sir. When he was in college, he was on the baseball team, and he and all of his friends, they had pizza out. I think Kyle told me the pizza had been sitting on the counter for a week. And Clint came by, grabbed a piece of it, nuked it in the microwave, threw it in the microwave. And I think he ended up in the hospital for 6 weeks with some sort of staph infection. Apparently he had ironically, he played baseball. There was some sort of baseball-sized knot coming out of his abdomen. I think he was in the hospital for 6 weeks of the staph infection. So moral of the story is, even if you put it in the microwave, that's not going to kill all the bacteria. Don't touch your leftover pizza. I just wanted to tell that story to somebody because I live with this visual in my head of how Clint had this baseball-sized thing and coming out of his person. Based on
so whenever we talk about leftover pizza, it brings a very vivid, specific memory to me of when you go to school and you sit down at lunch, right? Most of us would either have the hot lunch served that day, or you brought a sandwich in a paper bag or a lunchbox from home.
Yeah.
If you had pizza the night before and you show up the next day with pizza, nice cold pizza from the fridge, and it's wrapped in tin foil or whatever, and you are the king of lunch.
Best
there is
day
no
ever.
better lunch.
You were winning lunch that you won that day.
Oh, it was
the nostalgia.
So good.
I know.
And it is such a good, and if you're sitting there with a sandwich and someone has leftover pizza, you're like, ha. It's such a vivid memory for me. So when that came up, I thought it was so funny. But yeah, so the 401k space is very interesting. Again, awkward transition. But it's the idea that,
it's the idea of letting stuff sit and how it's not good for you when it comes to food or finance. That's how that's what the moral
This is a
of the
hot
story
topic
is
for
here.
Kimberly.
Okay.
Kimberly believes I'm way too loose with food safety regulations.
Kyle will say the same. We need to never let Kimberly and Kyle get together because
she is like, you're ridiculous. I'm like, this thing sits out at the store all day.
Most cheese is not even
breaking
refrigerated.
any rules. Right. And I'm like, we've been to Europe. Like when you go to Europe, every cheese is warm. Every bread is, so anyways.
We digress.
Yeah, but it's a hot topic. I can say that. I'm often told I don't care about life because of the way I treat food.
Got it.
But when it comes to the planning side of it, there are certain things we should set and forget and certain things we shouldn't.
Okay.
So when we think about how much we contribute, right? We do not want to reduce our contributions. We do not want to change the amount of money we're putting into the negative. And a lot of times we have to make these life adjustments and you pull back. So we want to make sure that we're constantly contributing and understanding the power of dollar cost averaging. We want to understand the fact that as long as I keep buying shares and keep investing, if you're under the age of like 53 to 55, a crashing market is a good thing for you because you're putting more money in. The market has to reset. It can never go up in perpetuity. It has to reset itself and come back down. So when it does, you keep buying more shares of whatever funds you're in, and it's called dollar cost averaging. You buy some on the way up, and then you buy some on the way down. That way, when it goes up, you have more shares. So you participate in more of the gains than you would previously.
Got it.
So you want to make sure your contributions are always happening. Set it and forget it. Do not limit your contributions if you can avoid it. Life happens. I get it. You have a kid, you have a major bill, and man, this week I got to cut back. I'm like, I understand it. At all costs, if you can keep it going, you will reap the benefits down the road of compound interest.
Okay.
And when you take away from the 401k, you take away not just the dollars you took away, but the dollars those dollars would have earned, and almost like those dollars, babies and grandbabies, right? Like every time the money compounds, it's like it just creates a new generation of money that you never even worked for. You saved it and now it's earned itself. You want to keep that thing going. What you don't want to set and forget is necessarily how you're invested. Over the course of your life, there will be phases you go through: massive accumulation, massive risk, massive growth. And then you start scaling back the growth as you get towards retirement. Once retirement is in the view, 5 years out, 3 years out, 4 years out, we start shifting from I have to make every penny to now I got to start not losing. And if you're looking to retire and you've got 1.2 million in your portfolio and you say, I'm going to retire next year, the market crashes and you drop to $800,000. You are not comfortable retiring because I just was at 1.2 million. The market pulls back 30%. I lose, 33% of my money. I'm down to 800,000 and now I'm freaking out instead of retiring.
Yeah.
So that's a shift. If you're really close to retirement, you have to start hedging more against losses rather than really working towards gains. So there are things you need to adjust and stay on top of and actively manage. I do think we almost want to time band some recommendations.
Okay.
Right. So if you're 20 to 45 years old, in my opinion, not a recommendation for everybody watching, but in my opinion, I would say you should probably be in the most aggressive thing in the portfolio. As aggressive as they'll let you be it. Now, a lot of people say, I don't want to lose money. I understand. But as long as you're holding the shares and you are under the age of 45 or so, that is more important than the value of the portfolio. Just let it keep buying and accumulating more shares because over time it will run itself up and make you a lot of money. The problem we get into is when you're in the younger ages, you've been aggressive during the good times, the market crashes and you go to conservative portfolios. So now the things you're buying in your 401k are conservative things. Because
you're older? So you've moved to more conservative things or?
No, just think like if you're 35 years old, right?
Yeah.
And as you have this portfolio and the market's good, economy's good, so you're buying aggressive growth because the rising tide is floating all the boats and things are going up. So you buy a bunch of them. The market starts crashing, so you get nervous. So what do? I'm going to go into my 401k and I'm going to shift to conservative portfolios. Remember, every paycheck, you're buying more shares.
Right.
Because every time you contribute, you buy more shares. Rather than buying aggressive growth things, because you shifted your portfolio, now I'm buying conservative things. So then when the market starts really recovering, I have conservative things that slightly recover, and I have old aggressive things that recover really quickly. So if you're under the age of 45, you should not be buying conservative things in your 401k. In my opinion, not a recommendation. You should be just letting this thing run, because over time, the market will win. And it's been proven itself out. No matter who the president is, no matter what administration, no matter what goes on, we've survived the Great Depression and the market won. We've survived 2000 to 2009, which many consider the worst decade in the history of the stock market. And we still came out incredibly well on the back end of it. So if you have another 10, because if you're 45 years old, you're not going to retire till 60. You have another 15 to 20
65.
years.
I mean, like I said to Kyle, Kyle and I are 45. And I'm like, we are not retiring at 65, first of all, because you, my dear husband, will go in crazy. I'm like, you have to still keep, both of us, we are both, I cannot sit on the couch on a Saturday.
You're going to have to,
both busybodies.
You're going to have to refire, not retire.
Yeah,
like, you're going to have to do something different. Like you're going to go into volunteering work, or you're going to start, buying a bunch of cats or something. You're going to have something that's going to keep
cats.
you busy.
Oh,
it's so sad.
It is sad. I'm allergic to animals. It's so sad.
The problem with trying to over manipulate a portfolio if you're young is that you miss out on the good.
Yeah.
Now, if you are 55, 60, 65, and you start saying, well, how should I be invested? Well, in my opinion, not a direct recommendation, I think that you should consider buying moderate to conservative things now in your portfolio, because you've already built this massive thing. And now I just can't have it crashing down as I'm trying to retire. So I need to stabilize it a little bit where it's a little bit more moderate. Once you retire, we really have to throttle risk. Now, I'm not saying everywhere, but be appropriate with it. If you have a Roth IRA, I would consider making that the most aggressive thing you have.
Okay.
And let your IRAs be a little bit more conservative.
Okay.
If you have non-qualified funds that are after tax and they're not in a retirement account, maybe make those long-term positions. That way they're taxed at a lower rate. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things you can do to really strategically build a good portfolio with lower risk once you're in retirement. But along the way, a 401k does need to be managed, but not manipulated. I think those who think they can outperform the market just by sensing the timing, it's really, really hard. And studies have shown time and time again, those who try to market time and really beat it. And I'm talking about the only people who are good at it are people who commit their full-time life to it. This isn't your job.
Even they, it's not, do they even have 50%? Yeah.
It's terrible. And on top of that, it seems like,
it's gambling.
This guy was right. He predicted this crash. I'm like, but the guy predicted crashes every year.
How many times he was right that one time? How many other times was he wrong? Yeah. I mean, I've heard financial professionals, like yourself, they're like, listen, the market is like gambling. It's that's just what it is. Obviously, I think that the benefits outweigh the risks, but
well, I think it's gambling with a reverse end result.
Right.
It is gambling, but if you're steady and keep playing, you will win.
Yep.
Right. In gambling, the house always wins and you go broke. Right.
Yep.
But in investing, don't overthink it. Buy the S&P, maybe put some money in the NASDAQ, put some money in the Dow, and let it run.
Okay.
And over time, it's going to average pretty well. Again, not a recommendation, not telling you to go do this right now, but this is the thought process
standard advice.
If I have time ahead of me, and I know that over time the market's going to work, don't overthink it.
Okay.
Keep it invested, keep going. And I just get concerned. People say, well, the market, especially younger crowds. I like the younger crowd is very sensitive to risk right now. It's very interesting. I think it's because they were very young during the 2008 crisis and they saw the chaos that ensued from it.
Well, yeah. If you think about people in their late 30s, early 40s, these are people that saw 9/11, that saw 2008, that have seen COVID, that they've seen. And these are, for the people of that group that are hardworking professionals that do want to invest, do well, they just have they're a nervous crowd, understandably.
And the problem is they weren't financially aware of the 80s and 90s when the market went up so much year over year. You could throw a dart at a dartboard and hit a 12% mutual fund.
Yeah.
So there are seasons of constant growth that we just get really hedged against because we're like always waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I think that if we have a much more long-term view of if I leave it alone in the S&P, it's going to get me 9 to 10% over the next per year on average over the next 25, 30 years. And that tells me I'll be able to quintuple my money if I just leave it in there long enough.
Okay.
So that's the interesting thing. I think that's in the 401k space. Again, you're limited on what your options are in a 401k as well, because it's like, here's 20 different mutual funds, of which you don't understand really what any of them are invested in unless you really dig into it. Do the best you can to build yourself a portfolio. By the way, you make cars, you work in an orthodontist office, you do whatever your actual career is, but also you have to be a financial professional in your own portfolio.
Yeah.
So just, again, in my opinion, I'd pick some risky stuff if you're young and just start picking less risky stuff as you get older, but stay in the game.
We've been talking a lot about people that are under the age of 45. Let's talk about the people that you work with, people that are they're in their 50s, particularly that magical year of that age moment of 59 and a half, and what we should be thinking about with our 401ks. So somebody who's coming to you who's 59 and a half saying, I want to retire at 65. Here's my 401k. What are some, I know we don't like to give blanket advice, but just some things that this group of people should be thinking about.
Here are conversations we have, right? Conversations we tend to have are things like, I think you should consider rolling it out to a self-directed IRA and have an advisor manage it. There are things that you can accomplish in terms of safety. Again, there's so limited choices in a 401k that if we roll out of a 401k into an IRA, there's more stocks you can choose from, more bonds you can choose from, more options. If you choose to go the route of an annuity, you can get an annuity from it. Now, they are starting to bring annuities into 401ks, which is very interesting because for a long time we were told annuities are the worst things ever, but now they're literally saying you may want to have one in your 401k. So that's pretty interesting. But there are way more options outside of it. So most companies, once you hit age 59 and a half and you have a 401k, there's a certain portion you're allowed to take out, even while you're still working for them, in an in-service distribution. Roll it out to an advisor or yourself and do something different with it. Because if you said, I've always wanted to buy a bunch of Apple stock, but I can't because my 401k doesn't allow. Well, 59 and a half, you roll it out to a self-directed IRA at Schwab or Fidelity or wherever, and then you start buying whatever you want to buy, or you hire someone to do it for you. That is a great piece of advice because there's way more options and often in a lower fee structure than a 401k. That's a big one. The other one I start saying is, all right, how can we start setting the table for retirement? So, and the greatest example I ever heard was, going back to pizza. When you order pizza, you call Cottage Inn, Hungry Howie's, Domino's, whoever you call, right? And you call and you place the order, and then you don't just do nothing for 30 minutes. You typically would set the table, get the drinks ready, get everything out. That way, when the pizza arrives, you can eat right now, right? So you
get it while it's hot.
And so you don't want to sit down and all of a sudden realize, oh no, we don't have any clean plates.
Right.
We don't have any silverware. So you get everything set. That way, when it's time to eat, you're all ready to go. A lot of people do the same for their 401k. I can't control what my 401k options are, but I'd like to set the table for retirement. So if I can take out 50, 70, 80% of my 401k, roll it to an IRA and start setting the table. If I need income, do I buy a handful of dividend stocks? Do I buy an annuity? Do I buy preferred stocks? Get something set up so my income, the day I retire, this thing kicks on for income. That's a big piece of it. Do I then set up some long-term investments to say, all right, now that I'm doing this and I want to segment some money for my kids, maybe I should Roth convert that and put it into a long-term Roth account that's going to be there for them when I die. Whatever you want to do, you can start setting the table and making sure that when it's time to eat, when it's time to retire, you're not trying to scramble and put things together. They're already in place.
Obviously, lots of questions. So a lot of people have 401ks. I think at this point, they're the biggest retirement savings tool that Americans, that's the most popular one at this point, right?
The best savings tool that's ever been created in America was the 401k.
Okay. So many people are utilizing it. The unfortunate truth and reality is so many of us, myself included, utilizing 401k, don't really know how they work or what we should be doing with them or how to do better with them. But knowing that it is your hard-earned money that you are working so hard to earn and save, give yourself the education and the knowledge so that you can do the things Mike's talking about, setting the table for your retirement future by making some positive moves with your 401k. If you have questions at Life Plan Financial Design, they are here to help you get some answers and understand what your opportunities are, particularly those of you who are 59 and a half and older. If you've not figured out what you can do with an IRA and your current 401k, the options are really, really abound for you. So let's get to work helping you figure these things out. MichigansRetirementCoach.com is our website and where to start the conversation with Mike and his team. We also have links posted in the show notes, so you can just click there, or again, it's MichigansRetirementCoach.com.
Thanks for listening to Michigan's Retirement Coach with Mike Douglas. To learn more, visit MichigansRetirementCoach.com.
Michael Douglas is an investment advisor representative of Stewards Wealth Planning, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Michael Douglas is licensed in your state, please call 517-323-7526. Stewards Wealth Planning, LLC is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Michael B. Douglas, NPN number 9650939.